kind of stuff, which I mean, like I said, I mean, it's fun and I can relate to it, but I'm not like, I didn't get why it was so popular. Like I thought it was going to fail, honestly, but I'm not rich like J.J. Abrams, so maybe that's maybe that's saying something. I don't know.
No, I mean, I like the first one that came out. The very first one, and yeah, I just thought, it was nice to see the Star Trek universe rebooted. Cinematically.
Mm.
That wasn't, the original cast from Star Trek in the movies, or Star Trek Next Generation, and then how they tried to bridge them, all that stuff. So I thought they did a very good job, and I thought the main actors, really captured, the essence of the main characters. I thought
Yeah.
they did a very good job with that. And I actually liked the second one with Khan. A lot of people did not like that one. I liked it until till the end. I thought it kind of devolved at the end, but I actually thought it was pretty decent. But then, yeah, very after that, it was just kind of like, okay, it's kind of gone the way of Star Wars.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, so yeah, that one I hated because of the fact that they, if you're talking about retread, that one really did. I mean, it was basically let's remake Wrath of Khan, which arguably is the best original Star Trek film, right? Like, that would be like if they, well, I guess Force Awakens did kind of remake Star Wars, didn't it? So, see, do we
Yeah,
see a
I,
pattern developing here with J.J. Abrams? Like, I don't know. So, you just can't come up with new stuff. But that being said, yeah, like I remember when I first saw the trailers for the Benedict Cumberbatch character, right? When he was going to be the villain in the story. I was hoping it was going to be that God, I want to say his name was Gary Lockhart, but I don't remember if that's actually right. I think I need to look that up. So I
no, I
thought they
think
were going to
yeah, I think
do
that's right. Or Lockwood.
Lockwood. That's what it was. There you go. And I thought they were going to do that story. So I was like so excited. I remember going into the theater like pumped up about that. I was like, heck yeah, like now we're going to get into some good, good territory. And then of course when it's revealed that, oh, he's Khan, I was like, come on. Like I mean, I definitely did groan in the theater, and I was like, I think I checked out at that point, especially so. And then you're talking about that final bit with Spock, right? Talking to his
Well, that
alternate
was part of
universe
it,
self.
right? They had
It's just
Spock,
like,
yeah, Spock and Khan, in the
yeah,
mano a mano fight,
right,
and then with Kirk, he was fighting with the Idris Elba character who had turned into an alien, or so, I don't even remember what it was. They
yeah,
were meshing these two plot lines together.
right,
Unless I'm getting movies confused. And so it was back and forth. Are they going to do it? Is he going to fix it in time? And even if Spock does his thing, is Kirk going to do his thing? And yeah,
right.
it felt pretty phoned in.
I mean, that's how bad it got. Yeah, and it's like, I'm sorry, um, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like, so the movies got to a point where they basically had to do, next generation into films, but that again I think suffered the same fate. I'm trying to think, like, honestly, I love uh a majority of those movies. I think I really like Generations, which I know a lot of people don't like, and then
Oh,
First Contact.
the movie.
Yeah, with where they kind of bridge the gap where
Yeah.
Kirk and Picard are in it together, which, like I said, I love that just because I love the characters. And so for me, that transcends, the need
A
for good stuff.
stupid story.
I don't know. Yeah, like it really is more of a character
Yeah, it it
based
it it, it was a good. It did
story.
reflect
Yeah,
the characters, and it was a good send off for Kirk.
right. Yeah, and I think that was one of the main things, right? Because he said he didn't really have a send off, and he's like, I need to have some kind of send off, like William Shatner or whatever, which is fine. I mean, who cares? It's William Shatner. Which actually, I think he just celebrated his 94th birthday. So
Yeah,
I
dude.
know,
What was it like? What,
right?
5 years ago? He flew up in the in the
No,
in
wasn't that like? Yeah, I mean, it had to be. Wasn't it after COVID or was it before? I thought it was like more recent than that.
yeah, it's fairly like maybe as little as 3 years ago. Something like that. But very recent. He flew up on Blue Origin, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I
I mean,
mean, you know,
if anybody's gonna do it, it's got to be somebody from the Star Trek cast, right? I mean, that's. But so yeah, so and then we get more into the sort of sci-fi adventure action stuff. And then we get the Star Wars prequel trilogy, which what are your feelings on that, Baron?
well, I mean, just as a visual spectacle, it was amazing. It was phenomenal, right? I mean, talk about science fiction eye candy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But after you see it for the 20th time, it's just you know, I don't know. It's not enough just to show how far you can push the digital technology. I appreciate that, and I appreciate his vision. He clearly had a very strong vision, right? To be able to make those movies look like they did. I mean, those
For sure.
action scenes were just off the hook, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, the stories just fell short. Although I did actually thought the last one was pretty good, where Luke becomes Vader. I thought that was a
Anakin.
pretty decent one.
You mean Anakin?
Oh, Anakin. Sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
Anakin.
No,
Yeah,
I know what you mean. But like, yeah, two things George Lucas is really good at: action and visuals, right? Like spectacle.
yeah.
Not so good at the dialogue or the actual like story and how it fits together. Although he's great at ideas, but he really needed some refinement with like a screenwriter and stuff like that. But so yeah, I would definitely agree with that. But I grew up during that era, so that was kind of, I'd always lived with Star Wars, right? Like ever since I could, I think, watch anything. I remember Star Wars being there, part of my life.
Yeah, like how about how old were you when it came out?
So when those came out, so let's see, so that was 99.
You were just a little
I
little
was
kid, right?
I mean, not like tiny, but like I was a teen. I was like yeah,
Oh,
13, 14, something like that. So that was like for me prime uh age to really, because I remember I think it was around 95, so I was like about 10 or so when I was starting to really get into movies, like watching them, like really wanting to sit down and like watch and kind of figure out like, okay, what are they doing, story wise, acting wise, camera wise, lighting, visual effects, all kinds of stuff, right? And from there sort of figuring out, like, they were very formative for me in terms of like making me want to be a filmmaker. But then it was 1999 and I see that movie in a theater. Of course, like my mom got tickets. She was waiting in line like 5 months, I think. It was before, right, online ticket sales and all that kind of stuff. Um, and we go and I'm in the theater and I'm just blown away from like frame one, man. Just the
oh,
music, the sound, the visuals, like it's just like wafting over me, and I'm on the edge of my seat the whole time. I'm just loving every moment of it. And it was at that moment I remember, like the last, like when it goes to the credits of that first viewing, I was like, this is what I want to do. Like I want to do this, right? Like and so from that moment
so
I was
that was a
that
very
was my, yeah. And I know it's kind of like, I remember being so embarrassed to say that to people when I was younger, because I remember, especially at this time, I mean, there was so much backlash, right, for the prequels. I would have to sort of grin and bear it when people were like, yeah, they suck, right? And I'm like, yeah. Meanwhile, in the back of my head, I'm like, no, I really loved it. But yeah, now I've gotten, I see, the flaws and stuff, but I think that's what makes me love them even more. I think if you love something, you're of course going to see all the flaws. I've seen them so many times now that like it's because I love them that I can say these things and be like nitpicky and be like, oh, if they had just done this or if they had done that. But it doesn't really, and it's kind of interesting to me too now that they're kind of garnering a little bit more love, especially after the sequel trilogy that just came out, and kind of the way Star Wars has been a little bit botched recently. So it's kind of cool to see that like that kind of love come back a little bit for the prequels. And like I said, like you said, like Revenge of the Sith, I think was actually pretty on point for a lot of it. I mean, it still had a little bit of the silliness and a little bit of the cheesy, wooden acting and stuff, but for the most part, I mean, especially that last third of the movie, I mean, is pretty solid, and in terms of action and the drama and like the dark kind of energy of that movie, I think is really great. And it's funny now too, because my kids, I used to wait. What was that?
Oh, Revenge of the Sith was the first of the prequel trilogy.
No, that's the last one.
Oh, the last one.
Yeah, first one was Phantom Menace, and then Attack the Clones was the second one, which was I was hoping they were going to get more into the clone aspect of it and what that meant for the universe, but again, it was just more of like a sidestep. Like,
yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I meant about the science fantasy versus
right. Science. There was no, yeah. And you could argue in some ways, the prequel trilogy, I think, pushed that even a little harder in terms of being more, tipping the scale more to fantasy. Because I don't know if that was a conscious decision on Lucas's part or if that was like what they were going for. Because I remember in the 90s, wasn't there a bit of more serious science fiction? I'm trying to remember like if it was kind of like a response to that, or if it was just something that, because I'm trying to remember like if there was any good like real hardcore science fiction in the 90s, but there could be some, but I could be mistaken. I know that Dark City comes to mind. Did you ever watch Dark City?
Oh yeah, loved it. Yeah,
Dark City's pretty good.
Yeah, I think as far as the movies goes, yeah, to me there's a distinction between what's been on television versus what's been in movies.
Right.
I mean, again, growing up and seeing again Outer Limits, and then immediately after seeing Star Trek, you'd just never seen anything like that before.
Right.
And then a common thing occurred. They had Lost in Space, which the first episode they played it straight, pretty much straight, and then the second episode pretty straight. By the third episode, Dr. Smith was, right. Pulling out all the weird monsters and all these bizarre plots, and it was just, even as a kid, I was going, "This is stupid.
It's a little too much, right?
What happened? They started off so well,
And that's a really good point. I remember, so at the same time that Star Trek was coming out, the Batman show was out. And I remember reading an article, actually, this was years ago, about how Star Trek had to compete with Batman in the ratings because it was falling behind. And of course, Batman, when you think about it, was like this super campy, cheesy, colorful show, right? Like everyone was, I guess, really digging that at that time. But so all these other science fiction shows like Star Trek and probably Lost in Space, I think probably came out around the same time. They were all competing to be like, let's get into the ratings, right? We need to eat into the Batman ratings. And so they were like called upon to be like, the networks were like, oh, you need to add more colorful characters and you need to add more silliness, more humor. And I remember like that being a thing that like Gene Roddenberry hated about doing, because I think Star Trek season 3 was where it really got kind of campy and over the top. And of course, after that, it got canceled. But
Yeah,
um,
I didn't think the third season got campy. It just got everything got cheap. Everything got cheap. The writing was cheap. The effects were
right,
cheap. The sets were cheap. It just, and I'm pretty sure that they kept squeezing the budget because the second season didn't do terrific. So by
right,
the third season, it was like, well, we'll give you a little bit to do it, and yeah, it was the third season was. I I don't know every single episode, but I
mm,
can't remember one even what I would call a good episode. You know, there weren't a whole lot of good episodes, even fewer really good episodes. But that third season was just a wash. Oof, it was brutal. Yeah,
yeah,
but that happened again with a lot of things. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, when that started, that was like, they started off, more with a more mature take on it, and then pretty soon, it was the latest guy in a rubber suit underwater with the 12-foot, sea view model,
right,
electrocuted,
yeah,
and it just, they just ran out of good ideas or something.
or
And then
something. Yeah,
that happened with all those Irwin Allens, Land of the Lost, Time Tunnel, all those, they all started off pretty decent, but then, pew.
yeah. And I think a lot of that could be attributed to, um, network involvement. I know a lot of people, maybe we like to blame writers and people like maybe not having the best ideas anymore, but a lot of the stuff that, especially now that I realize, is like part of the business of it, which kind of sucks, right? Like if something doesn't do well, especially now, like the first season of something, like usually is going to get, if it doesn't do well enough, it's probably going to not get into second season. It's going to be canceled, right? Like this has happened a lot to a lot of, I think, good shows. But it's because they don't want to spend more money. And then of course, the longer a show goes on, um, they have to keep raising the pay of everyone who's involved. They have to keep, you know what I mean? Like it, maybe the budgets get
Yeah.
increased, maybe because they want to go to new locations or do different things or have a bigger visual effects budget. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and like sometimes it just doesn't become sustainable. But um, yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. There's a lot of interesting factors, but
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure, studios interfered all the time, but you were talking about, you can't really blame the writers. I don't know that the studio heads were telling them, yeah, we need to dumb this down to make it more popular. I don't, maybe that happened, but I find that a little hard to believe that they would,
really,
interfere on that level. I don't know, because they subsequently, there's been some stuff like, again, the what I consider the best science fiction series I've ever seen, and that was the reboot of Battlestar Galactica.
mm,
You know, I mean,
yeah,
that was well written for, all four seasons. There were a few filler episodes here and there, obviously, because
mhm,
again, they had so many to fit, but the consistent quality of the writing in that, so it can be done. um,
yeah,
so I just wonder if like the show's creator has a strong vision for what they want the series to be. And maybe this gets into, kind of things like how we would approach doing a short film or something like that.
right,
If you don't really have that strong vision for, what you want to see on the other side, instead of like, oh, let's do a thing about, a time machine, a time tunnel, and we can have all kinds of adventures. They can go back and, try to kill Hitler, and they can, like, it's like the idea
yeah,
is a good one, but
Right.
didn't have the vision for like, where are you going with this? Instead of just like, well, we'll just try all kinds of stuff. We'll throw a whole bunch of
And
stuff at
see
the
what.
wall and
Yeah.
see if it becomes popular. I just, I have to believe that if it had been well written and had a good overarching plot, that perhaps some of those series would have lasted longer. Don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I agree with that, and I think part of the issue with that too is like you were saying. I think maybe not so much lacked vision, but at least lacked a plan. Like they didn't have like a season to season plan or any kind of arc um, in place. Because there's a lot of shows that I know that actually did do that, and they did, and they survived, and it actually was a really decent run. But I think, like for instance, like maybe Star Trek, I don't know, like didn't have like they were kind of just um going kind of season to season, and like a lot of shows like that I think tend to do. Um, but like Battlestar Galactica is a good example. I haven't actually seen that yet, so
Dude,
no spoilers. But I still
you got a treat. You have a treat in store for you, my man.
but I like the idea that like so what I think is I don't know the story behind it. I don't know if you maybe want to talk more about that or if you know more about it, but like to me it feels like they had a plan from the very beginning, right? And they kind of probably pitched this whole series like, okay, this is what's going to happen in the beginning. This will be season 2, 3, and then 4 will end like this. So do you want to do it? And it could be up to like the creators giving them the rights to it or whatever, right? Like saying, oh yeah, I want you to do this because the studio or distributors believe in it. Or if they're like, oh no, let's chop off this ending and put something else here. I mean, that's up to the creator, right? Like, oh, I'm just going to walk away from this. Or maybe they decide to do it because they need a job. And, I don't know. So I guess there's a lot of stuff that there's probably some factors in there. But I like what you're saying too with like, so Baron and I are in a group here in our area, an indie science fiction filmmaking group. And he's got a really great film out you can watch right now uh, that I really like. And what's the name of it, Baron?
Are we referring to Imperfect Pairs?
Yes, we are. I really enjoyed it. And I have another film. It's not a science fiction film, but it's a short film called Peccadillo. You can find it on my channel. I'm sorry, I'm just doing a little bit of plugging here.
For sure.
But so we really liked our stuff. And there's a couple of other people in the group as well. And we're trying to make these little short science fiction films. And he brings up a good point. You bring up a good point because of the fact that the nature of where we are right now, right? We're not these big multi-million-dollar companies. We don't have a lot of money. We have big ideas though, and we want to see these through, right? Like we want to see our visions kind of be on a screen and for people to enjoy and for people to watch over and over. But it all starts with a plan. And we have scripts in place, and then we go from like pre-production all the way through to post-production. Like the point is like, I don't know where I'm going with this, and if you want to take it from now I'm like on this thing about, but like no, like the whole thing about having a plan, right, is
Or yeah.
right,
Again,
like
a vision,
right,
a vision for, and I think everybody does. Like you clearly do. Your screenplay for Reverie, the short film that you want to do. It just has a nice. It opens and then it takes you all the way through. And I don't know if it occurred to you that way for your own story, but I just thought you had a very strong vision, and it carried through through the entire script. And I just think if I've seen a lot of well, I can't say I've seen a lot, but I've seen many would-be independent filmmakers Yeah, and as they're getting started, it's just like, hey, try anything, try everything. If you do something, hey, at least you did something, even if it wasn't exactly like what you wanted. I mean, even Imperfect Pairs, we talked about this. I don't think Imperfect Pairs is it's not a particularly good science fiction story. It's, science fantasy. The
I
science fiction,
mean,
the science fiction element is, kind of a piece of basically what's just, kind of a drama, with a little bit of thriller thrown in.
mhm.
So, I mean, I'm pretty happy with it for the most part, but I don't consider it a very good science fiction story. I think it's a decent story. I think it engages you okay, and doesn't mess around, just kind of gets in and, you know, I talk about this all the time in our
Mhm.
film group. It's like, get in, get out. Don't take up more
Yeah,
time than you need.
for
Take
sure.
the
Yeah,
time
yeah,
you need, but don't take up more time than you need. Yeah,
right.
but
Yeah, but I think you're being modest. It really is good.
oh, thanks,
Like to
man.
see
Yeah,
it,
it was just, yeah, so much
watch it.
fun doing.
I Yeah. Well, I think some of the key things are there, right? You got the mystery, you got the thriller aspects, you got I think again, like in some ways, I kind of like science fiction, especially nowadays, that subverts in a way. Like maybe you're watching something that you don't realize is science fiction until you get to the end. And sometimes that can be fun too. And I felt that way when I was watching your movie. Like I was kind of like, where's this going? And then you get to the end and you're like, oh, okay. And it was kind of a nice, twist. I don't want to give anything away, but
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
really
that
cool uh, aspect to your film that I really enjoyed.
yeah,
But
that story was kind of a throwback. I call it. You've heard me call it. I call it my Twilight Zone episode.
yeah, 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 yeah.
you know, which and Twilight Zone, even though they had a lot of science fiction themed episodes,
Hmm.
not a lot of those were particularly good science fiction. It was just kind of used as a device for a different kind of story. I'm being very nitpicky because I'm a
Right.
huge
I
science
mean,
fiction fan, but
yeah.
and I enjoy, dude, I totally enjoy a good science fantasy, good science space opera. Like you've seen The Expanse.
I've seen the beginnings of it. Yeah.
Oh,
I it's a show I want to get more into, but yeah.
yeah, I thought that was quite good. I think it kind of lost steam, but I thought the books kind of lost steam too. Although I didn't read them all.
Okay.
I read the first three, and for me it was like okay, I don't know. I didn't feel compelled to keep reading, even though I enjoyed them just fine. I just didn't enjoy them so much. It was like, what? There could be 4 or 5 more of these things.
Right.
They were starting to feel a little repetitive, you know.
Okay.
Uh, but anyway, um,
So that
it
could
still,
be.
and it's like one of the best depictions of
Mhm.
actually colonizing the solar system that I've
Right.
ever seen. I mean, it was really, really well handled.
Okay.
So yeah, that's worth seeing. But again, in my opinion, it really kind of lost steam towards the end. Still worth watching.
So that could be an issue with the writer then, right? In terms of
I'm
so
not sure. Again, not read the whole series, so I don't know what happens.
okay.
All I do know is that there were certain, fundamental story ideas in the beginning, and
Mhm.
then towards the end, they they kind of faded off and kind of went into something else. So that
Hmm.
I found peculiar. I don't know if they like circled around and answered some questions, but yeah,
Mhm.
I just found a bit of a disconnect between where it started with these really big science fiction ideas and then towards the end, it had kind of gotten into uh, personal drama, and it didn't live up to the premise.
So where do you see science fiction now? So if we're talking about Star Trek, Star Wars, and now the MCU souring science fiction, or at least cinematic science fiction, um, do you think? I think. Well, let's hear you say something first. But where do you think the state of science fiction is now in terms of considering all of what we've already talked about? Like, are we better? Are we worse? Like, where are we?
Well, to me, I mean, it's the jury's out to some degree, and it's not like this doesn't happen to other genres. They get kind of pigeonholed, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. They get stereotyped, and science fiction again because I love it so much because of the ideas. I think I've told you this before. Of any book genre of storytelling I've ever read, only science fiction has given me thoughts that I never had before.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Right. Yeah.
oh man, I mean, I never. It's not, books give you experiences that you've never had before, and some thoughts like how would I react if this thing happened to me. But I'm talking about ideas, like ideas that you never considered before, and that mind blowing aspect of the awe and mystery.
Yeah.
So that's why I love it so much. So again, happens with other genres. They get kind of dumbed down. They
Right.
because I think there's this perception that the public won't resonate with something that's too hardcore or too serious, which I think Battlestar Galactica blew that out of the water. I mean, that series was heavily. It wasn't like gigantically popular, but it was very well recognized. I think it won a couple of
Oh, yeah.
Emmys, for best
Yeah.
drama. I think it was considered best drama, best
Right.
dramatic
I
TV
remember. Yeah.
series. So it can be done. They showed that kind of mature thing can be done. The Expanse, did it for at least a few seasons.
Mhm.
So
Did that get the same level of recognition, you think, or
what's that now?
did
What?
that get the same level of recognition, you think? The Expanse?
Oh, The
Or-
Expanse.
yeah.
Well, I mean, Netflix had it for a couple seasons, then they weren't going to renew it, and there was enough of a clamor that Amazon picked it up for the next two or three seasons. I
Okay.
think
Yeah,
I think that's how it went down.
that's where I'm watching it, is on Amazon. I thought it was an Amazon series. That's interesting. Okay. It
Yeah, I'm
was Netflix.
pretty sure it started at Netflix.
Okay. Cool.
I think. So and I haven't seen enough. I don't know. They have so many of these things that come out, like the three body problem.
Mhm. I haven't
That
seen that.
first
No.
season, I thought that was pretty decent.
Okay.
And if they go through it, I might even like it. Um, it might be tighter than the books. The original trilogy, really liked the first one. The second one, not quite as good, but it had a great ending. And the third one, which a lot of people adore, I just thought went off the rails.
Okay.
As in certain respects, as far as characters, the characters were just, I just couldn't. I just stopped identifying with the people involved in this
Mhm.
fascinating premise that they set up, and the guy gets into some pretty mind-boggling, you know, scientific and events, and so I can see the appeal, but for me, it became nothing but these mind-blowing ideas, and they kind of forgot the characters. So for
Mm.
me personally, I thought the third book in the trilogy was, a pretty big disappointment overall. But so I'm interesting to see. Maybe as a series,
Hmm.
it'll be tighter. I thought that I don't know if I talked to you about this before, but the Watchmen, you know,
Yeah. Watchmen,
Miller's graphic novel.
great. No, uh,
You've seen the movie,
uh, yeah, but it's not Miller. I just had it too.
not Frank Miller.
It was Moore, Alan Moore.
Oh, Alan Moore. I'm sorry. Yeah, I get Alan
Yeah,
Moore and Frank Miller confused sometimes. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
yeah.
So
No,
when the movie was coming out, I thought I've never read this graphic novel, which is kind of unusual because I was way into comics back when.
yeah,
So when the movie came out, I thought I got to, I don't want to see the movie until I read the graphic novel. So I
right.
read the graphic novel, and I thought, man, it was really innovative in many ways, but I thought it went on and on and on. So by the end, it was just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of, it wasn't as special because he just kept throwing all of these extra things in there, in my opinion. So when the movie came out, I thought, 2 hours, 10 minutes, whatever that was, I liked it better than the graphic novel. And I know that's, blasphemy
I'm
for some comic book, fans, but
not
that was
necessarily.
just my experience of the story.
Yeah,
Again, we're always getting back to storytelling.
right. It's all about story, right? And if you liked that better, then you know that's okay too.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I
I mean,
would
I'm curious. I'm
I would
curious
agree
if
in some
other
aspects.
people who read the original graphic novel, what their opinions on that were, and if they
Yeah.
think the graphic novel, could use a little trimming down.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too because it's like Alan Moore, right? And it's like, ooh, he's one of those. He's almost too good to critique and criticize, and it's like, I mean, come on, because I feel that way about V for Vendetta. Have you ever read that?
Yeah,
And
I
then
read the graphic novel. Yeah, I mean,
you've seen the movie too,
really
or
like the movie. I really
yeah,
like the
the
movie too.
movie's
But
great. I love it.
yeah, I can see where some people would think the graphic novel might have gone on a little. I thought it was fine, just the way it was.
Yeah, I mean it's good, but in the same sense that I think Watchmen is it drags on. Like I feel the same way about V for Vendetta. Like I mean it's fine as a graphic novel when you're sitting and reading it, but like as a movie experience, I really enjoyed what they did with the movie to actually move the story along. Like, oh, this is actually more entertaining. And I like adaptations like that where it's like they take the core of like what makes it the thing and then just show us that thing and expand on it. But I'm trying to think of like what about Watchmen the show? Did you ever watch that?
I watched the
That
first 2 episodes and I bailed.
really? Oh my god.
I just
I loved that. But yeah, okay.
I don't know. It just didn't click with me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fair.
maybe I should go back and watch the whole thing. Like if you would recommend it, and I'm not one of those purist guys like, well, it's not like the graphic novel, so I don't like
Yeah.
it. Just to me, just as a just as a story, I don't know. I didn't quite get where they were going with this stuff,
Hmm.
and didn't like it enough to stick with it. I didn't hate it, but
Yeah, for
just
sure.
it didn't click with me.
I mean, I would recommend it. Yeah.
There's nothing for me really interesting going on. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
and it could be just the type of story too, and like maybe, that's it is meant to be different. So I remember when they were coming out with it, they were saying that it's not meant to be based on. Well, is that our timer? And cut. No.
Speaking of cut, we're gonna have to cut this short pretty soon, dude. I didn't tell you this. I didn't. I didn't want to tell you this until now, but my dumbass didn't hit the live button. I thought I did until about 25 minutes in.
What? Oh boy!
Sorry, man. We're gonna have to do this one again. But I've from about 25 minutes on, it's been great.
Cool. Were you recording this, or is this not? Well, it's
no, yeah, I'm actually recording it so I can, then download it. But
whoa,
yeah, that's why we haven't had any chats. All the people I was telling to get on the live stream got on and said there's nothing going on. So
oh no, okay. I see that. I just went back to it's on YouTube right now. It's actually on a pretty big delay, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, they do put a delay on it, but I didn't think it was too much, like 5 minutes or something ish, maybe 10 minutes.
I went to it and it was us talking about J.J. Abrams and stuff, so I feel like that was a while ago.
That's because it was.
It was, right? I think we had a really good conversation. I'm really glad you brought me on board. I would love to do this again. I mean, did we answer the question though? So in terms of, what I would recommend to you these days, and I think we talked about this before too, Severance is a really great science fiction show that I would say blew me away in terms of, if you're one of those people who thinks like, and I'm not saying you, Baron, but I'm saying whoever may be watching, like, oh yeah, science fiction is dead. There's nothing good coming out anymore. Well, get yourself an Apple Plus subscription, or at least a trial, whatever, and binge at least the first season, and you will be pleasantly surprised. It's one of those shows that the less you know about it before you go in, the better, because like definitely don't read anything about it because there's a lot of stuff out now, because season 2 just ended, so obviously that's going to be everywhere and there's a lot of spoilers probably. But yeah, give that a shot. I would say, at least if you can maybe watch the first 3 episodes and still be like, oh, this is, and not, you know what I mean? Like, it's, I kind of challenge you to stop watching after that point. But if for some reason you're like, okay, this is not for me, then that's fair. But I would say at least give it.
I appreciate that heads up about not paying attention to it. I don't see getting an Apple TV subscription anytime soon. But what I would like to do, what I would be willing to even pay for a year, is if it's however many seasons it's going to be, if it's on for 3-4 seasons, whatnot. At that point, I would avoid any mention of it, and then watch it all at once. Get a subscription then,
right?
And then, watch it like that. Yeah, because I mean, I
first 2 seasons,
a lot of series that if they don't grab you by the 3rd season, then it may not be for you.
Yeah. 3rd season.
We to wrap things up, we finally got some chats. People on the chat.
Here we go.
Because I don't know if anybody heard, but
fantastic. Hello.
I didn't hit the live button properly and didn't notice it for about 20-25 minutes. So anyway, we're wrapping things up, but I think this is a good question. What is the dumbest sci-fi movie and the coolest? Any ideas on that? The dumbest sci-fi movie. Boy, there's a lot to choose from.
Is there? Apparently not, because I'm having a hard time thinking of one right now. Actually, you know what? Okay,
I mean, here, I got one for you.
okay,
I
go
got
ahead.
one
Go.
for you.
Oh, all right, go.
Rebel Moon.
Okay,
Rebel Moon.
I haven't seen that one, but I still want to.
Yeah,
Is that bad? Is that
yeah,
bad?
I
Or?
think you should watch it for just how, again, the production values are fantastic. It looks terrific.
Mm-hmm.
The storytelling, oy, it's so derivative, and it's so, I don't know. I used to love Zack Snyder. Now it's like, man, dude, what happened to you? He
Right.
used to do very interesting things. I mean, The
Used
Watchmen,
to be
I thought
somebody.
was terrific. 300, obviously. A lot of
300.
people didn't like it, but I really like Sucker Punch. So anyway, that's one of the dumbest
The dumbest.
the
Okay.
dumbest sci-fi movies I've seen
Like
recently.
you will lose brain cells watching this.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And the coolest for me
Okay.
to complete that.
Well, let me go for my dumbest really quick. Okay. Well, this was so dumb I couldn't even finish it because I could sense myself just dying as I watched it. Independence Day Resurgence.
I didn't even see it.
Dumbest. Okay, if you're talking, oh my god, are you a fan of the first movie at all? And I understand the first one's pretty dumb
I
too.
really liked it when I first saw it, and then I've seen it a couple times since then. And I thought, "Eesh, this is really, because it was so fun. It was one
It's
of those
fun, right?
fun, tune
Right.
your brain off for a little bit and just enjoy. So I really enjoyed it, and the
For sure.
spectacle, and but yeah.
But yeah, so the sequel is just, it dials up the dumbness like by 10%, man. It's insane. It's like from like the opening scene, I like my wife and I were watching it and it was just like we had to turn it off. Like, and we rarely do that. Like we're like, let's give it a shot. And it was like 20 minutes in, we were like, we can't do this. Because we actually love the first movie. So why they did this, and it was just
You know why they did it.
I mean, yeah, we know why.
Yeah,
still,
my
why?
my equivalent of that is, it's not strict science fiction like we were talking about. Science fantasy was the Aquaman movie. I think it was the second one. I don't know. It could have been the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I watched about 20 minutes maybe of that, and yeah, I had to bail. I just thought it was making my brain hurt. It was just, this is so dumb. And I'm a big Jason Momoa fan, and I, really like the character, but
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, I just couldn't hang.
Yeah,
Bailed.
pretty dumb. All right, well, so what's your coolest?
Well, the most immediate recent one is Dune 2. Hands
Dune
down.
2? Okay.
Just, even though everybody knows the story
Yeah.
so well, or at least most people do. Yeah, I just thought it was really, really well done, and I am actually looking forward to see how he's going to do the second in the trilogy of the book trilogy. He's going to take Dune Messiah and weave that into a third, and do his own trilogy that doesn't do the last book. That's my understanding of it, and I think that could be another one of those ones where the movie could be better than the book. Like the books are the Dune, the original book,
Yeah.
outstanding. Like you can't touch it. The second Dune book, Dune Messiah, I didn't care for it. I just thought it was too way too introspective, and it just, I don't know, kind of lost something. So I'm hoping that in the movie they'll do something that kind of wraps the entire story up a little better, as opposed to the original trilogy. So
Okay.
I'm very much looking forward to that. But that's for sure one of the coolest sci-fi movies I've seen recently.
Or are we going just for recent, or?
No, it doesn't have to be. That's the first thing that popped in my mind. I mean, there's
The coolest.
The coolest.
It's got to be the Matrix. Come on. Right?
I can go for that. I might put
your like
I might
sunglasses.
put Dark City. I might put Dark City.
That was another one.
I might put.
Yeah, see, there was that similar kind of aesthetic through that,
Yeah.
like late '90s, early 2000s, right? There was like, what was there was another one that was like what was that one with? It also had Lawrence Fishburne, Event Horizon. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. At
Got a
first, it was one of
science
those.
fiction. That was a
Yeah.
horror movie in space, which is actually what
Right.
Alien is.
Yeah, that's
Alien
it.
is a
Exactly.
a horror, but that actually did have some science fiction ideas, like what if we actually brought on board our spaceship this truly alien life? So that had a good amount of science fiction in there. Event Horizon was all about the horror, and I like. I thought the ending was pretty sloppy, but I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot.
Funny because I remember hating it when I first saw it, but then I recently rewatched it, like I think 3 or 4 years ago, and I was like, "Damn, this is actually pretty good."
Yeah,
like, and I was looking for something like that, so it was fine. But I'm trying to think of what else. Like, well, V for Vendetta, it's pretty cool too.
Yeah, I really liked Ghost in the Shell.
See, I liked it too. You hear all these people though. Like, I honestly love the anime too.
Yeah,
So
me too.
It's not like I'm not a fan of that, but I love the movie too. I thought the movie was fine.
Yeah, I thought they did a very good job. And to me, just this isn't important to the storytelling, but the atmosphere for cyberpunk, I thought they nailed it. Just nailed it. And I've read a lot of reading a lot of science fiction. I've read a lot of cyberpunk, and seen various depictions of that, and some hit, some don't. Like Johnny Mnemonic, that was a William Gibson short story turned into a movie. With Keanu Reeves, shows up in the Matrix.
Right. That was,
and it wasn't a bad movie by any stretch, but not on that level. Oh, what did you think of? I thought this was a good one, and I read the book. It's not quite like the book, but it had the same vibe. Was Annihilation? Did you like that?
Yes, I loved it.
Yeah, I really liked it.
I love it. Okay,
I thought that was underrated.
Oh yeah, like I didn't actually read the book. I'm a huge fan of Alex Garland, though, who is the writer director. All his stuff is great. Have you seen Ex Machina?
Yeah, I wasn't as blown away as a lot of other people were. I thought he kind of wasted the premise a little bit. It turned into kind of a revenge, get your comeuppance thing. So I thought it was one of those where I really liked the way it was done, but I thought he didn't stick the landing for me.
Okay, fair. Yeah. But yeah, Annihilation. I've loved everything he's done. Annihilation, I thought was great. I know you didn't like Men.
What else has he done?
Men was the other one. I know we had a conversation. Anybody who's seen Men?
Is that kind of almost like a black humor take on?
No, it's a pretty serious film. Yeah, it's about this woman.
Whoa, wait, let me stop you right there first. Is it science fiction?
No, no, I wouldn't consider it science fiction. It's more of a I would say
it's a drama,
lore-ish, folk fantasy, because there's sort of like the later part, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but the last 20 minutes of the movie are probably the most disturbing I've ever seen, in my opinion. But everything up to that point, and then the final scene. So the scenes to me that bookend the movie, the opening and then the end, that's everything to me. Like that, it just is so good. And then after that, he did, so the one that just came out that he's done is Civil War, which is kind of science fiction. It's sort of like not too distant future. It's
Yeah.
actually kind of like
I didn't,
where
yeah, I didn't,
we
I remember that coming out. I didn't see
going.
it. Doesn't, I don't know for sure because I haven't seen it, but it did not appeal.
Civil War.
Yeah, I mean, have you? If you tell me it's a good movie, dude, I'll check it out.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm just a fan of this filmmaker, and everything I've watched, I have high hopes for, and then I get into it, and I'm like, "Yep,
Oh, oh,
it's
okay.
good." I mean, he's 4 for 4 at this point, as far as I'm concerned, as far as a filmmaker goes. But and that's pretty rare these days. So he's tops in terms of contemporary filmmakers right now, in my mind. Trying to think of who else. But yeah, no, Annihilation. Just to get back to that, yeah, Annihilation is definitely cool. I'm trying to think of more recent stuff that's like cool. I don't know. Did you watch Battle? What was that called? Battle Angel.
Oh,
Alita,
Alita,
I think, or
Battling. Well,
Alita.
that, yeah, that looks like just a flat out fun kind of thing. I haven't seen that yet, but I
Yeah.
want to. I
Well, it's
want.
in that. It's like a cyberpunk.
Yeah, yeah,
It's based on an anime or like a manga.
manga.
Um, but that was kind of fun. Again, it wasn't. It's a bunch of cool cyberpunk stuff, and guys with big weapons, and like big CGI battles and whatnot. But I think it was James Cameron wrote the script, and then Robert Rodriguez directed it. So, I mean, like I said, fun, kind of cool. I saw it in theaters. I don't think it did very well because it kind of ends like it's setting up a sequel.
They,
But
I've
that,
heard that they are going to do a sequel.
oh, are they? Oh, okay.
I think so. So yeah, hopefully it'll get a little more love because yeah, that was one of those ones that I heard. It's actually a much better movie than you would think from the response to it. So I guess they had enough confidence, enough faith in the next film that they're going ahead and doing the sequel. So yeah, that's one I want to watch. But hey, man, we got to wrap this up
You
real
know,
soon. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe we could do maybe we could do kind of the same thing and just get into it a little deeper on certain levels, or I'll think about that, and you think about that too. If you wouldn't mind returning next week, and we can kind of do a part two with
part
this
two.
thing, which would actually because
Sure.
we have
There's
now
so
gone
much.
almost an hour.
I know. And that's before we went live.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
after.
before we're live. So I'm hoping that doesn't count against my
Oh,
lifetime, but we'll see. So anyway, yeah. Thanks, Anthony, for
love
being
fun.
on this, and we'll talk about it. If you want to do it in a couple weeks,
Yeah.
I would certainly love to have you back.
Well, it's been a lot of fun, Baron. I appreciate it. So,
Cool, man.
all right.
Well, we'll be in touch, and this will be the end of this one. So
All right.
goodbye, everybody. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Changes.